Hello guys, Robert1 here, and today I am doing my April/March Banlist Prediction video because Konami have said that they will be releasing the banlist either this month or next month, so I thought why not do my Banlist Prediction video now, because why not? And before I start getting into this list, I will be saying this. I am not going to talk about the cards that were on the emergency ban list, because there is no point to talk about those cards because they will be on the ban list next week, this week, next month, regardless. There's no point in talking about them because we already know that they're definitely going to be on the ban list. So let's also talk about let's get into this list. So I really think this is going to be a big list for the TCG for one reason, because there's a lot of decks that need to be hit to make this meta a little more fair and to make it a little more stable, I'd say. Because we are in one of the most peaceful formats we've had in a long time. This format has been, it's been a change, because this format has been a format where we've had many decks that could top. We've had many reasons for all sorts of decks, and I think most of these decks do need to be, well, most of the big ones do need to kind of calm down a bit, because, as we all know, decks like Monarchs, decks like Cosmo, decks like Burning Abyss, Phantom Knights, all of these decks are pretty dominant, and I think if we hit some of the cards in these decks, which I believe Konami will do, which will actually make the ban list a little more adjusted, and it will make the meta a little more sound and let more decks be able to top, so and forth and so on. So let's get into this. Now, I only think there's going to be one card on this ban list. It's a card that's deserved to be banned for so long. There's no point in it even being here. A deck finally topped with it, a YCS or a regional, so they actually have a reason to ban it. And this is Magical Explosion. Now, Magical Explosion has been in this meta for so long. People have done so many stupid combos with it. We've had the Pseudospace Chicken Game OTK. We've had Monarchs OTK as a recent date, which actually was the main reason I think it will be banned finally. And it's just such a degenerate card. Just being able to draw out your whole deck, then use Magical Explosion and Life Equalizer to just be like, oh, GG. So it's just not a fair card in my opinion, and I believe with the new tops that it's had, it will be fair to ban the card. So yeah, Magical Explosion banned. I believe this will happen because it's a very, very solid card to ban. I don't think anything else in the meta really needs to be banned currently. It's all pretty stable. Even if Konami decide to change their adjusted list and make Monkey Board banned, it wouldn't really change anything because I couldn't really see that happening. So the next card we're going to be talking about is another card. It was reprinted recently in the Gold series with its entire deck. You probably know what I'm talking about, and this is C, Mellow Branch of the Burning Abyss. Now, with Graph on a few lists back, this card got put to 2, while Graph got put to 1. I think this card is going to go to 1. Now, as we can see, Burning Abyss is still a very dominant deck. And this deck has been in the format for God knows how long. Since Duelist Alliance, where it's still been one of the most competitive decks. It was able to beat the best deck of the format, Shadows. It was able to beat Necros. It just has so much power, and also with its new variants of the Phantom Knight Burning Abyss and all of this, I think if we hit Seer to 1, it will make the deck a lot more balanced. It will make it so it can't really go as fast as it should go. and it will also make it another balanced thing. So I think Seer's going to go to 1 because of that, same as the next card I'm going to be talking about, which I think should go to 1 as well with Seer, which is Dante. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, oh, why hit him on my homeboy Dante? My homeboy Dante is in so many different decks, it's so good. Well, that's the point. Because of this card is so good, it can be used in the Phantom Knight deck and get many pluses. It can be used in Lightsworn. Yeah, we ain't seen Lightsworn in a long time, I understand, but it can still be used in it. It can be used in other decks. It can be used in a normal BA deck, which is broken as hell because you get pluses almost all the time. And because it can be used in like Phantom Knights, BA, Lightsworns, even other decks that can use generic rank 3s, this card is one of the best rank 3s in the game. Sure, the best rank 3 of them all would be the new Breaksword card that comes with Phantom Knights, but that card does not need to get hit yet. It's a fine card right now. It does not need to go. But Dante going to 1 will make Burning Abyss just leave. Sure, they just released Beatrice, but when you think about it, the whole BA deck actually got released in the Gold Series as well. So, and whenever Konami do something like this, they always seem to hit what they're gonna get what the new deck, the deck they've reprinted, and then just make it safe for all the new decks. Because when you think about it, Dante to 1 and Seer to 1 will actually hit BA to a point where they won't be a dominant deck anymore. That you will see you can still see them as a rogue deck because they will still be somewhat competitive, but they will not be the best deck, which is what I find to be really good. And by hitting Dante to 1, we will also see this card less powerful in the Phantom Knight decks, which it actually generates so much advantage in the Phantom Knight decks, because just milling trap cards on monsters, you just can get free advantage from them, which I find to be really broken. So I can see Dante going to 1, because it was reprinted, it works amazing in so many rank 3 decks, and it's just a very good card in general, and I can see Konami reprinting, with the reprint that they just released, hitting it to 1. So next is a deck that has been out since Clash of Rebellion. It's a deck that we also got reprinted recently, and this card is a card that I think is the most broken card in the entire deck and needs to be hit to 1 to make the deck a more fair and more balanced deck and stop its OTKs going off so harsh. You've probably guessed what I'm talking about. Dark Destroyer. Or should I say Bank Destroyer no more. Hey! But yeah. I think Dark Destroyer should go to 1 purely because this card can generate so much OTKs, and also, with it up 3, Cosmo just can go so mental with this card. When Cosmo first came out, I respected that they used the Artifact engine to go all around and just be a good deck. Sure, they weren't a deck on their own because they didn't have all their support yet, but with cards still coming out, I can see this card going to 1, because when we get Dark Planet, then I can see this card going to 1, because this card is the most broken card in the entire deck. But with Dark Planet coming out, that card will be one of the cards being used in the deck as well. So if we hit Dark Destroyer, that will make room for that card, plus it will make the Cosmo deck a little more fairer, because you won't be able to just be like, oh, Tin Can reveal so and so many cards. If they reveal that Dark Destroyer, then you know that if they don't hit the Dark Destroyer, they're going to have a very hard time. And because of Cosmo's play stuff like Call of the Haunted and all of this, hitting it to 1 won't really hurt it. It will just make it less consistent and not as broken for the OTKs. Because the reason Cosmo can OTK so easily is because of this card. Because you can be like, oh, attack with a ship, summon Dark Destroyer, destroy ship, summon another little guy, attack with little guy search, banish little guy, summon another Dark Destroyer, so on and so forth. But because of if we hit Dark Destroyer to 1, they won't be able to do that, and it will be a balanced deck again. Meaning it will be a lot fairer for this meta. So the next card I'm going to be talking about is another card that got reprinted in the Gold Series that I could actually see going to 1 because it's been a card that's been out for a very long time. It's put in so many decks, and I can actually see it just going to 1 because of how much more fair the meta would be with it. So the card I'm obviously talking about is Emergency Teleport. Now, Emergency Teleport is used in so many decks currently. Hitting this card to 1 will be so good because it means that because this card is being currently used in Monarchs, Phantom Knights, BA even, I believe. Yeah, Phantom Knight Monarchs BA, the Power Rangers deck. It's being used in quite a few decks right now that are just crazy. And if you hit this card to 1, it'll make it more balanced. Plus, because of Konami's recently reprinted it, I can actually see it going to 1 because, as I said with Dante and the Dark Destroyer, when Konami reprint cards, they tend to hit them. They tend to hit them on the next ban list because they want to sell their product with all these good cards in. Then they hit the product. Then they hit the cards after they made their profit. So this is what I can actually see happening. Emergency teleporting go to 1. It's not worthy to be banned, but putting it to 1 will balance out the meta and stop people from just using engines like that blue layer to shuffle back, use free tele, stuff like that. So that's a very good reason for this card to actually go to 1, and I can actually see it happening because it's been reprinted. It has it's made a stupid engine, just being able to recycle stuff. You can special stuff like Ghost Ogre straight from the deck and use Ghost Ogre's effect. It's just a card that I think will go to 1 and actually deserves to be at 1. So the next card we're going to be talking about, the last card that I think will be going from 3 to 1, is Wavering Eyes. Now, Wavering Eyes is a card that's been here for such a long time. It is a very broken card. It's a card that's needed to be hit for so long that it's unbelievable. Because this card is just unfair. It's got 4 effects, which no other card has in the game, to my knowledge. Well, that effects like these at least. And it's just not fair because this card can literally just make your opponent scoop. You Wavering Eyes for 4, and your opponent will scoop because you're just going to add another Wavering Eyes and have your opponent done. So this card is just a not fair card at all, and I can see it going to 1 purely because it can search itself. If it went to 1, it would make it a more balanced card, and it would make it fairer for the Pendulum decks. Because I think because this card is at 3, that is scaring a lot of the Pendulum decks away, and that's why it should go to 1 to make the Pendulum decks more fair, and it will help the deck go through another change, and I think it will just bring out new decks and new cards, new text, and all of that for the meta. So Wavering Eyes to 1 is a card that I definitely think will happen. So the next cards we're going to be talking about are cards that I think are going to come off the ban list, because will come from banned to 1. And the first card we're going to be talking about is Dee Mahk. Now, Dee Mahk, I don't really have to talk about Dee Mahk because it's got its errata now, and it's not really needed to be on the ban list. Plus, with the new Dark Magician support coming out, there is a reason to unban this card. So it can be with the new Dark Magician support. So, because this card in the new Dark Magician deck is actually quite good. So I can actually see this card coming off the ban list going to 1. And also because it doesn't need to be at 1. It's banned anymore. It's got its errata. So yeah, just bring it to 1 and it's fine. Hell, I could even see it coming back to 3, but we all know Konami, they never do that with errata cards. So the next card is a card that, obviously, I've been asking to come off the ban list for a long time. All of you guys have been asking to come off the ban list for a long time, and that is Straddle. Free my guy Straddle, Konami. Let him off the ban list. But yeah, Straddle is a card that has been in the ban list for such a long time, and I think should come back purely because there is so many goddamn versions of him in the game. Like legit, we've got Skullcrobat Joker. We've got... I've got to actually think. Skullcrobat Joker, the Chronomaly card to make Infinity. We've got Dino Mist cards that do it. We've got... Oh, I'm trying to think of all the cards now. We've got stuff... Oh, my mind's just broken at this point because Stratos is a card that does not deserve to be banned. It's been banned for too long, and it's just not needing to be banned. Oh, there's also DDD Kepler guy and other things. Stratos does not need to be banned. It's a card that should be off the ban list, and it's not something that needs to be banned at this point in time. So just bring Stratos back. Bring him back, Konami. Bring him back! But yeah, I think Stratos should come to 1 because it's just a card that doesn't need to be banned. There's so many different versions of it. Sure, it's got 2 effects, one being able to destroy spells and traps, but honestly, there's so many cards in the game that actually stop stuff like this currently. We've got Warning, we've got Strike, we've got freaking Horn of Heaven, we've got all sorts of stuff that stop this card. Why is it even banned anymore? It doesn't need to be banned, and it should just come to 1. Give Stratos back, and all your hero players will be happy again. So yeah, Stratos to 1. It needs to happen. So the next card I'm going to be talking about is a card that got banned about 2 formats ago. It's a card that I don't think actually should be banned, and it's a card that we actually would want back, because when you think about it, this card is actually a game changer. This card is a card that needs to be here in the Pendulum format, purely because when you're going up against a deck that is not if you're playing a deck that's not a Pendulum deck, then this card can actually help you so much, just being able to come back from a game. And I feel like this card should come back purely because the Pendulum mechanic is just so good, and this card can actually stop it. And that card is Exciton Knight. Now, Exciton Knight is a card that has been on the ban list. It was banned 2 formats ago, and I don't think it should even be banned, because when you think about it, Exciton Knight is a card that doesn't need to be banned. Sure, it's got a board wipe effect, but it doesn't need to be banned purely because it helps. Because when we've got all these decks currently that play cards, and sorry if you can't hear bird noise in the background, I got my window open. But when you've got all these cards that literally can flood the field, just play through the game and literally just stop just OTK, what's the point of Exciton being on the ban list? This card is a card that just purely is there to help. This card is a Black Rose as a rank 4. This card, it doesn't need to be banned at all. Sure, it can be used during either player's turn, but it can only be used in your opponent's battle phase or your main phase as well. It's a card that doesn't need to be banned. It's a card that I think should come back, and it will make the game a lot fairer just for it to come back into our meta. So yeah, that's Exciton Knight, and the next card I'm going to be talking about is a card that I think doesn't really need to be banned either, and that is Lavarval Chain. Yeah, you guys are probably saying, what is wrong with you? Lavarval Chain's a broken-ass card. It should be banned. It should never come back. But it doesn't actually need to be banned when you think about this. Because the meta we're in currently, the only rank 4 spam deck is a Pendulum deck. And that Pendulum deck doesn't really care, because it also synchro fusions. It does every method of summoning other than Ritual, of course, which it will do when we get Rector and stuff. But it doesn't really need to be banned, Lavarval Chain. Sure, it can send any card from the deck to the graveyard. It doesn't matter. Also, it's a card that does not need to be banned for the fact that its effects aren't relevant right now. Oh, putting a card on top of my deck, next turn, I get OTK'd. Oh, sending a card to the grave. Okay, you can have that. Next turn, OTK'd. It's like we're in a format that doesn't care. You can use the Lavarval Chain's effects, and it's not really going to do much, because this format, it's pure searchability. The whole game is search, and it doesn't need to be banned. I guess you could revolt saying that this card, it's gonna send like Damage Juggler to the grave. Oh wait, Damage Juggler banned. It's gonna send like Trick Clown to the grave, summon itself, use Clown Blade effect. Send Light Swarm to grave, summon, send Infinity. It doesn't matter. All it will help is rogue decks, and I think that will actually be better for them. Because in Pendulum decks right now, you don't want to send monsters to the graveyard. You want to make your monsters in the extra deck. Literally, the only rank 4 spam deck currently is Draco Pals, and Lavarval Chain will probably not be used in it because you don't really want to be sending any of your monsters to the grave to begin with. So there's not really much point for this card to be banned in this meta currently. Sure, someone might come up with some broken OTK, but there's no point for Lavalval Chain to be banned at this point. And I feel like it should go to 1. So yeah, I think Lavalval Chain should go to 1 because it's not really that good a card in this meta. Because in the Pendulum format, we don't really want to send monsters to grave anyway. Sure, we could spend the trap cards to grave, but no decks really use it. Even Monarchs wouldn't use it because they don't need an extra deck. And even if they did, they don't run level 4s. Also in Cosmo, there's no point because like you run like 2 level 4s, 2 Wicked Witch, and all of that. There's no point of this card being a banned card anymore. It should just come back to 1, help some rogue decks out. So yeah, I can see the Lavalval Chain going to 1 for that reason. So now on to the next card that you're probably going to say, oh no, it should never come back. But it actually could come back because we're in a format where people are just setting 5 with like Pendulums can set the scales, BA, Phantom Knights, all these decks setting 5, and that is Heavy Storm. Now, I think Heavy Storm could go to 1 because it just destroys all spell and trap cards on the field. It generates no advantage for you, and it's basically not really that good. It's a good card, but it's a card that doesn't need to be banned anymore as well. Because hell, if I was saying Harpy Server Destroy right now, I would be like, no, that card should never come back. But this card is actually balanced. It won't just destroy your opponent's stuff, but it also destroy your stuff, which I can see actually good. Because when you think about it, when we're in a format where you can just set 5 and win, that's a format where this card should come back. Because in the BA deck, set 5, I can't play Yu-Gi-Oh! In Phantom Knights, set 5, I can't play Yu-Gi-Oh! Pendulum decks, destroy scale, I can't play Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, Heavy Storm is a good card that I can think that can come back to 1, purely because it doesn't need to be banned anymore. We're in a format where the cards this card could come back, not be amazingly broken, and just help all these different decks out. Because with all the other stuff that I think they'll get banned or hit or anything like that, I think this card can come back purely because of that. So yeah, let's move on to the next one and just talk about it, because this is another card that I think that could come back to 1 that's been on the ban list for a very long time. So this is Monster Reborn. Now, Monster Reborn, special summon a monster from your graveyard, from either player's graveyard. Now, that's not actually that bad. Because when you think about it, Monster Reborn is not a broken card. Because in this format with Pendulums, you don't really put your cards in the graveyard. You don't really care if your monsters are in the graveyard. In Phantom Knights, they run like, what? Trap cards that special summon from the graveyard. In Cosmos, you run like Call of the Haunted, so you can summon them on your opponent's turn. Sure, you might want to use Monster Reborn in them, but putting it to 1 won't really do much. But Monster Reborn is another card that's kind of iffy. It can come back, but it doesn't really need to. But it's a card that I can actually see coming back to 1, purely because it's a card that is just a good card. It's a card that can come back. It's not going to really break the meta because of Pendulums. Because, again, you don't want to put your monsters in grave if you're playing a Pendulum deck. Like Draco Pals, which is technically the best deck of the format right now, for some stupid reason. I think it's a terrible deck. But Monster Reborn is actually a card that could come back to 1, in my opinion, purely because Pendulums don't want to go to graveyard. Sure, you still got like BA and all of this that could abuse it in some way, but it's not really that broken anymore. This card could come back to 1 decently, and no one would really mind. It's a card that's not broken. It's not like Snatch Steal. That card was actually properly broken. Snatch Steal was just stealing a monster, but this, not so much. It's a card that could come back, I could see. Because Pendulum decks don't really care if their cards go to grave. Well, they do care because they want to recycle. They can't really get them back unless you're playing like Pendulum Magicians or something, and that deck's not really played much right now. So I could actually see Monster Reborn coming back to 1, purely because most decks don't really send their cards to monsters to graveyard anymore, and you really wouldn't care if it's a Pendulum deck. So yeah, Monster Reborn could come back to 1 in my opinion. So let's move on to the cards that I think are going to be semi-limited, starting off with Monarch Stormforth. Now, it's an obvious reason why this needs to be limited. It tributes one of your opponent's monsters. And in the new Monarch deck, it's just too broken to actually talk about. It's like, oh, I'm going to tribute your monster on your turn. Like, Konami, what were you thinking? Because this card is actually one of the most broken cards in the whole Monarch deck. Sure, this is the one I can actually see them hitting as well. Because, again, it was reprinted in the Gold series. This card is a card that is reprint. When you reprint stuff in the Gold series, you know that shit's either going to get hit or not get touched. And the most likely chance is that it's going to get hit. And not a lot of Monarch cards were put in that Gold series. The only one that I can think of, well, spell-wise, which was an old card, is this, Monarch Stormforth. And if this card goes to 2, then good. We won't just have to give them a Stormforth, because it will be at 2 and it'll be a bit fairer. Because this is literally one of the most broken cards in the entire Monarch deck. So it's really good if they limit this card, purely because of how broken it actually is. So I'm not really going to get into a big discussion, because it's a card that really needs to go to 2. I could even see it going to 1, but that probably won't happen. So yeah, I could actually see Monarch Stormforth going to 2, purely because it can tribute your opponent's monsters, and that is broken in Monarchs beyond belief. So yeah, let's move on to the next card that I think is going to go to 2, and that is Solemn Strike. Now hear me out guys, before you say anything. Solemn Strike is a card that's been out that... Right, I'm not even going by how good it is. I'm going by what Solemn has had done to it over the years. Every Solemn card ever released. 3, 2, 1. Every list we've seen, unless it was like Solemn Authority or Solemn Wishes, you can't count those. But this card is a card that I can see actually going from, just as the other warnings, 3 to 2 to 1. So I can actually see this card going to 1. It's a very good card in the game, and it should actually be hit, because when you think about it, being able to negate an entire Pendulum Summon, it's completely stupid. It's a broken card, and it should go to 1 just because of that fact. So yeah, this card can go to 1 in my opinion. It doesn't need to be hit. It doesn't need to be here anymore. So yeah, Solemn Strike to 2. I can see that completely, purely because of how the Solemns have gone down in the way. Solemn Judgment was like 3, 2, 1, I believe. Solemn Warning was definitely 3, 2, 1. And now I can see this card going on the same path as 3, 2, and 1. So yeah, Solemn Strike to 2. That's all I really have for the semi-limited cards in my opinion. And now I have one last card to talk about. It's a card that shouldn't be banned anymore. Shouldn't be semi-limited anymore. And I think that's Dark Hole. No reason for Dark Hole to be at 2. None whatsoever. It's a card that doesn't even need to be at 2. Even if people do run them, they put 1 in their side deck. And that's it. So I can actually see this card going to 3. There's no reason for it to be at 2. And I can actually just see this card going to 3 very easily. So yeah, guys, tell me what you thought of this video. Tell me if you agree with my ban list predictions. And please, like, comment, and subscribe your opinions on this ban list. So yeah. And I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe again. And thanks for watching, guys. RobberBat1 signing out.